Okay, hello guys.
Yeah.
So we should be live and operating right now. So welcome to our 7 o'clock business focus. Let's
Yeah,
get a
good
nice
evening, everybody.
banner here. All right, as you can see there at the bottom of the screen, as always, guys, I know it's probably gotten a little bit repetitive by now, but it's always nice to know who we're talking with. So if you're watching or if you're joining us in the next couple minutes, do let us know your name. Let us know where you guys are writing to us from. Exactly. We really want to hear from you guys. So I just see the first person just joined. So just say hello if you can. So we'll do some very brief introductions. We've been doing these webinars for several weeks now, so you probably know us quite well. Marco, definitely,
Hey,
we've had
Marco.
plenty of lessons together. Someone else just joined. So anyway, guys, my name is Thiago. You can see my name right there under my image. I'm 29, from Brazil originally, but partly grew up in the US in California. And I've been with Myes since 2016. And joining me today.
Hi, so I'm Jadine. I'm 25 from the UK, and I have been teaching for a little while, but I only joined my ears 2 months ago, just before this beautiful quarantine period. So it's been interesting.
Exactly. So yeah, Marco, how have you been? I think last time I saw you was maybe last week. So how were you dealing with the news that we got from the government? Is that what you were expecting? Are you disappointed? Are you excited to maybe go for a walk on Monday? So just let us know how you're feeling as we get
Hey,
started here.
Alessia.
Yeah. Hi,
It's
Alessia.
nice to see you
Definitely.
again. Yes, for sure.
Cool. All right, folks. So yeah, let us know how you are. Okay, we'll get to your comments as they come because there's usually a bit of a delay. So in the meantime, we'll just get started here with our slides. So we are looking at presentations today, but as always with these business activities, it's really good just focus on all the vocab and the overall the phrases that we're teaching you guys because they can be used in so many different contexts, so not just presentations. Okay. So, Jadine, can you please tell us what the objectives for today are?
Sure. So, visually moving. In this business activity, we are describing visuals in detail, drawing attention to slides, and also comparing and contrasting visuals. This
Exactly.
is the aim, anyway.
Yeah, so we'll try to do. And let us know if you guys also, if you ever had the opportunity to present anything in English, even if it's just a presentation to your team or a group of colleagues maybe that are part of your company but work in a different country. Because it can be challenging. Presentations in general can be pretty nerve-wracking for a lot of people, even in their own language. So I can only imagine doing that in a different language. See, in Italian, that's one thing. I don't think I've ever had to present in Italian. It makes me quite
Oh,
nervous.
you can present. You can present to me if you like, Thiago.
In
I'm
Italian?
always here for you.
Okay, I'll consider that. So cool. So we have some vocab. So we're going to be talking about some products here. So Jadine, can you read these adjectives for these inventions that we see here in the images?
Sure. So we have cutting edge, essential, beneficial, in high demand, ridiculous, and completely ignored. Okay, and Marco tells us that he's feeling pretty well. 2 weeks more are not so bad. I only hope people have a little conscience and they won't go around too much spreading the risk of infection. Yeah, it would be horrible to have the freedom taken away again.
Yeah, and I don't know. See, I keep telling myself that I will go to the park on Monday, but I feel like that's what everyone is gonna be doing. And so maybe I'll wait a
Maybe.
little bit just to see, because yeah, I don't want everyone to go crazy and then for them to just kind of take that away from us. So we'll see how that will go. So, all right, guys. So we have some bizarre, well, some of them are bizarre, not all of them. Some products here. So I'll actually make the screen a little bit bigger. Maybe you can see it better that way.
Yeah.
Oh, Alessia, fantastic word there. A bit knackered. Too much time spent in front of my laptop. My eyes are dry. That's great. I would just say my eyes are dry in this case. Dried
Yeah.
works.
Make sure that you blink enough.
Make sure what?
That you're blinking enough.
Oh yeah. No, but that's true. Like if I consider like my screen time during these weeks, I mean it's been insane. Even just comparing, because the phone keeps track of like her screen time, and
Really?
yeah, and so like if I compare it to right before the quarantine, it's I think I even shared a picture in our WhatsApp group of like my activity, like from walking, because the phone also keeps track of like how many steps you take, your kilometers or whatever.
Oh.
I mean, there is such a drop. You go from like the 24th of February on. I mean, I used to do like 5, 6, 7 kilometers a day, and then that just drops down to 0. And then my screen time just shoots up. Like, it's crazy.
Wow.
And then all the computer, screen and the TV screen. See, like right now. So actually, I'm not doing too bad. My average is 4 hours. Actually, 5 hours.
That's not bad at all.
No, it's really not. But wait, if I go back though, see, last week was 7 hours.
Wow, and then if you include the hours that you work or using a screen,
yeah,
maybe it is the whole day.
And then I also watch TV.
Oh no.
Yeah.
No.
It's gonna be a big strain on my eyes.
Okay. So maybe we can also talk a little bit about what these products are, because I'm not completely sure. It looks like the first product is a pillow.
Yeah, it's
some form of pillow. In the form of a woman's legs, or at least the legs of someone wearing shorts or a skirt. Picture B, I think we have some kind of retail clothing store. Picture C, someone selling shoes. And they may be regular shoes, or they may be the type of shoes that people get when they have issues walking. So to help train or rebalance, we call it the gait. So the way you stand and walk, the distance between your hips and knees, your gait.
Exactly.
Picture D, though, I'm not sure about.
I think it looks like some kind of, maybe it's a pharmacy. I think she's buying medication.
I thought that too, but I'm not sure. And then E, we have obviously a phone that can bend. Who doesn't want this? And F, we have our toiletries.
Exactly. And just to clarify, I think B, they're actually fighting for that dress.
Oh,
so they both want the
I thought
dress.
Someone was
so
showing her.
Fighting for
I thought it was really nice.
If you look at it in a small picture,
it was like a presentation.
What it looks like. But if you like go closer, they're actually fighting for it.
God. Okay, and Alessia says about the presentation, I did several times, or if we want to be more correct, maybe we could say I have several times, because we're talking about life experiences. So we like to use the present perfect. Once I made a presentation with a group of Germans, and it was quite hard to follow them brainstorming in German and presenting in English. Wow. So do you speak German as well, Alessia? Because that's a very large range of languages.
Yeah. It's very impressive. Also because these languages are all so different. I remember like giving a go at German once, just for a bit, and then I just found like just all the rules like really exhausting. Like it's very logical, it makes sense, but getting all the rules right takes a long time. And then then you approach English, and it's just like total chaos a lot of the time. So, all right, guys. So we'll just start slowly revealing the answers here. So I mean, yeah, I would definitely have to say that that's just ridiculous or bizarre.
Mhm.
To be sleeping on like someone's thighs, I don't know.
On the floor as well.
Yeah, like, well, I
Picture this
don't.
man just laying on the floor.
Yeah, but there are plenty of like ridiculous products out there. Now B, of course, we have two people fighting for something. So if they're fighting for it, I would assume that that product is in high demand. Okay. What about C, Jadine? What do you think C is for that? For that, there's one shoe there.
So possibly essential, but probably beneficial. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be.
Because you don't need this specific shoe, but maybe this shoe is beneficial for your life. Wow, Alessia does speak German. And Margot says, can I say about a product that don't forget it, is high demanding? No. So the phrase is in high demand, or in demand, which just means people want it,
Mm-hmm.
or people are buying it.
Yeah, I can
We
also
can
say
also have,
sought after.
sorry, as I say, you can also have in low demand, which means people aren't buying it. Some people are, but not many. And of course, we also have on demand, which you might hear, which is when you can get something when you need it or when you want it.
Exactly. Yeah, because I think now that I'm looking better at the picture, it looks like behind the guy there is a screen with like a picture of like a foot. So it might be like a special type of shoe that
I
is
think
just like better for, yeah, just maybe like your posture or whatever. So that's why I think it's beneficial. But it's very subtle. You really have to read into these pictures here to get it. So D, assuming it is medication. Ah, no, I guess not. Why completely ignored?
no, I've got no idea what D is.
Because I thought it would maybe be medication and then it would be essential. Completely ignored.
No,
Okay, well, so just
no
focus on
idea.
the adjective there. What about this phone here?
Okay, so the phone, to me, is a bit ridiculous. But obviously, a bendable phone is the future. You can fold it up, put it in your pocket. So we can call something so modern or, thinking ahead as cutting edge.
Yeah, yeah, the very latest trend. Yeah, I actually don't know why is the idea of like bending phones like so popular? Because I keep hearing about companies trying to do this, but I don't know what's the benefit.
Maybe it's because I think phones seem to be getting bigger. People want bigger screens, bigger cameras, etc. But
Yeah.
obviously, a bigger phone takes up more space. This is the only thing I can think. Or it could be if something's bendable, it's less likely to crack or smash
Ah,
or
I see.
break.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, the screens do get
And
cracked,
was
but
Alessia.
fantastic. And then, of course, we have the essentials over there. And by the way, the word for that, guys, is toiletries. Toiletry. I think that's spelled right. My computer is saying it's wrong for some reason. That's right, right? Toiletry.
My computer also says it's wrong. I think there's a double letter somewhere.
Ah,
I really
yeah,
don't know.
but just yeah, toiletries, just like any kind of like cream, toothpaste, like things, yeah, for your hygiene, personal care. And then Marco says, okay, I think because you can take, maybe you can carry it in your pocket. Okay, yeah. All right, guys, cool. So thank you. These just focus mostly on the adjectives here. Oh, so we have a few questions using these adjectives that we want you guys to maybe attempt to answer. So think about a product today that is in high demand. What makes it so special? And we live in a particular very strange time at the moment. So there are certain products that right now are in high demand that maybe weren't even just a few months ago. So what's in high demand? And if you want, try to also incorporate already some of the other ones. You can, instead of just a simple answer, you can even elaborate it a little bit more and kind of use some of these other adjectives. Can you think of one in particular, Jadine, that you think in this
Yeah,
time period is?
definitely. So I would have to say face masks, hand sanitizer, gloves are all essential. In the UK, I think you all maybe saw the stories. For a very long time, toilet paper was in high demand
Yeah,
because people were
it
just
went from being an
hoarding.
essential item to a high demand item very quickly.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was insane with the toilet paper. I mean, really all over the place, except in Italy. That is one thing that just wasn't gone. I mean, even when we first saw the scenes
because
of the supermarkets,
I
like,
think it's because in Italy you've got the bidet.
yeah, so
Really.
yeah, so it really is like, I mean, it is kind of an essential, but it's also easy to kind of do without if you really have to. So yeah.
It's crazy how. Yes, very nice point from Marco. So smartphones, remember we use plurals if we're talking generally, or you could say the smartphone if you're talking about the concept. So smartphones and all cutting edge devices are in high demand to communicate with the world. Nice,
Yeah.
really nice.
Definitely. Although I am seeing also a rising demand for simpler phones as well. I think as people are getting overwhelmed with being expected to reply all the time, people can always reach you. Some of the simpler phones are also becoming more popular these days as a way to counter that growth of smartphones. Great. And then as you guys keep answering if you're writing something. I'm never sure like when it ends. Maybe there's another one. Okay, perfect. And Jadine, do you want to read these other questions here in the meantime? There's some
Yeah,
other
no worries.
expressions.
So, what cutting edge products do you use on a daily basis? If you could, what products would you use for an overwhelming majority of the day? And what is a ridiculous product that you wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole? And Alessia says as well, subscription for unlimited internet connection and movies on demand. Yes, it's true. The internet is in high demand. I know a lot of internet providers, their services really, really decreased when everyone was suddenly quarantined because I think they just weren't prepared to have to provide so much Wi-Fi to so many people or so much unlimited data.
Sure, especially because we're using a lot of services nowadays that are really heavy on the data. I mean, if you consider just even live streaming as we're doing right now, a lot of people streaming very high quality movies and series like Netflix as well. In fact, I think Netflix, they had to actually lower their quality. I think like the highest quality they provide is no longer available, or at least I read an article about it. Maybe it hasn't actually come into fruition, but
Wow.
just because it was so much. Also because if you think from a purely environmental standpoint, I mean, Netflix is, I mean, they use so much, it takes so much power to be streaming these super high quality shows all the time that it
Wow.
uses a lot of energy. something that we don't think about, but it's so I think that they reduced it.
Okay. Yeah, in answer to these questions, what cutting edge products do I use on a daily basis? I don't really think I use any. I'm a bit of a grandma. Don't really need anything. But I know some cutting edge products I would like. The old house I lived in had an amazing blender. So this is something that blends food. And when I tell you it's amazing, it would blend anything. I believe it would blend a person, blended and mixed.
Really?
And I honestly, I think it costs like over £1,000 for this blender. And
Wow.
I love it.
And it's
Yeah, I
just
love
a
it. This is
blender.
something.
Does it have other functions as well?
Nope, blends or mix, but it can cut it everything. But just using these blades, I think
Oh
about
my
it
gosh.
sometimes. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm not even someone who loves to cook. I don't love to cook, but this blender.
Well, but also it makes it easy
Wow.
for you to want to cook when it's when things are made easier for you in the kitchen.
I was making my own things. I was making my own peanut butter.
Yeah.
My own
Oh
nut
gosh,
butter.
peanut butter.
So
Yeah.
easy.
See, I
Yeah.
had a food
Felt so
processor
good.
that I used to use to make peanut butter, but then it broke, and so now I just have like a kind of one of those tall blenders, and it just doesn't work for that.
Not the same.
Yeah, so I miss it as well. I think I'm quite similar in that sense. I mean, I think the only like semi cutting edge product I have is my smartphone. I mean, my old one broke just last year, so I had to buy a new one, and so I just bought one of the newer models. But other than that, I mean, not really. Growing up, I was more into, I think, tech products than I am now. There are certain things that I never really wanted to get. For example, one is the smartwatch. I've never wanted it, never had a desire for one. But I know several people have it. For me, it's just way too much. I already don't like my phone vibrating in my pocket. It's always like on silent mode. I cannot imagine having something on my wrist. Always like demanding my attention.
It's true. There are definitely some products that are useful. For example, if I had a faster laptop, or maybe some kind of fit watch or something that could help exercise. But the truth is, I just don't like them. I know lots of things are beneficial, they are useful, but I don't like them.
Yeah. All right, cool. So guys, if you are answering any of these questions, or if you have any questions about it, here we go. We got Alessia, who just said, I'm not into cutting edge items. The only thing is a new Hoover I bought, and it's amazing. 0 effort for a great result. There you go.
I like the sound of that.
Is it one of those automatic ones, Alessia, that you kind of press a button and it goes around the house, or how does it work? But then again, I heard like those are not so efficient, because there's a lot of corners like you can't really get to. So yeah, that's actually a good one, like a vacuum cleaner. And that's one thing I don't have. So I use just a good old broom. Okay. All right, guys, we're going to move on just to make sure we can get to some other things. But yeah, if you're writing anything, just keep going. So we're going to look at this case study. So Bright's Research and Development Department has followed trends very closely in the last decade and has noticed that smaller, more portable products are the market's future. European product development specialist Yuto Kamamoto is at a convention in Berlin to present the company's latest research on the future of defibrillators. All right. So yeah, this should all be okay. I think even the words in red, trends, decade, notice, you guys probably know the meaning of them, but if you don't, just ask. And then we have a question here for you. Jadine, can you read the question?
Yes, I will. And just that Monica has said,
Ah,
to not touch something with a 10-foot pole is funny. Yeah,
it really
it
is.
is.
Yeah.
It's funny, but actually, it's quite a common phrase. I think a 10-foot pole, or sometimes as well we say a barge pole, which is also just a very long item. Yes. So the question: think of some products that would be better when reduced in size. How about some products that would be worse if smaller? And again, if there's any vocabulary in this piece of writing that you don't understand, then please let us know. Otherwise, you can answer the question. For me, what would be better smaller? I don't know.
One thing that comes to mind is like printers. I find it crazy how printers are still like such bulky items, like even though they've been around for so long. But also besides the size of it, I find it crazy how there's so many problems with them. Like printer jams, like they're just so common. It doesn't matter if it's like the latest model, they just keep jamming. There's always a problem or another. And they're like really big, especially like if you want a faster one, they're just these gigantic monsters.
It's true. Also, I don't know. Would products be worse if smaller? I guess the thing is, some things are more efficient when they are larger. For example, like Alessia's Hoover, if it was tiny, it would take a very, very long time to hoover her home. But at the same time, you don't want any products that are too big, because then where do you put them, especially if you have a small home? I think ideally, products that can fold or become compact are ideal, because you can use them at full size when you need them, but then you can just fold them away and put them somewhere neatly.
Yeah, exactly. Phones is an interesting one because they keep going like from small to big, back to small. Like the trends like change every generation, I feel like.
I think because people were especially in the Western world, we get bored very, very easily, and we always want something else. So I think when you have a small phone, you want a bigger phone because you want a big screen. And then when you have a bigger phone, you think, no, it's too big. I want something smaller. So it's a problem. Alessia says, no, I run it. Alessia says, no, I run it. The automated ones I've tried aren't so efficient. Maybe we could just say, well, no, I guess run it is fine. I've not really had this conversation about Hoovers before. We could say, no, I think run is perfect. I use it.
Maybe a handle. Yeah, sorry about these bells. They're like so aggressive.
Handle. Sorry, I just muted you. It was really
No,
rude.
that's okay. Thank you. Because I was wondering like if you guys could hear it. It's like, and sometimes they go on forever.
Okay. Marco said about phones, the lighter the better. It's true. Yeah, so sometimes it's not just about size, it's also about weight.
Yeah, that's definitely one thing about my phone. I mean, it's pretty like small in terms of, I mean, it's thin, but I find it's quite heavy even compared to the older model that I had. It was much lighter. Hang on, hopefully these bells will stop soon. Okay, we're gonna.
Oh, it's not so loud now.
It's not that bad? Okay, cool. So, all right. So as we said, we're talking about this medical device company, and here we have who was this person again? He was the product development specialist. So he was at a convention in Berlin. He's giving a presentation, And this is what he says. So here, maybe I'll read the first paragraph. Jadine, if you want to tackle the second one.
Sure.
So we have SoBright has focused on client needs in the last quarter. We've noticed that requests for a personal portable defibrillator have been in high demand, so we've developed a new cutting-edge product that has been completely ignored by our competitors.
You'll notice here in graph A that an overwhelming majority of medical professionals would find this product beneficial on a daily basis.
And here we have their beautiful graph on the side. So just looking at, So just looking at what Kamamoto said here, so how does he direct attention to his graph? So just thinking in terms of language here, phrases used, how does he direct the attention to it? Let's maybe make this a little bigger. You guys can see it better.
And afterwards, there's a phrase or a word actually that I want to teach you guys, which is a word that we always used when I worked in science research and we had to give presentations. And we used it because it makes you sound very, very clever.
I wonder what that is.
And sorry, I've just noticed as well. Interestingly, it has is used the terminology completely ignored. I still have no idea what it was referring to in the first slide.
The slide before this one.
But within this context, yeah, in the one with the pictures. In this context, it's great. Completely ignored.
And so Alessia has
and yes, Alessia.
You notice here, exactly. So you notice here in graph A, cool. Okay, and if there are any questions, of course, guys, just let us know. Otherwise, we'll just continue. So just have a look. If there are any words, etc., just write it down in the comments and we'll get to it. But yes, you'll notice here in graph A that blah, blah, blah. Okay. Then he goes on and he says, we also want to change a medical culture that we find ridiculous. Have a look at these data in our handout and you see that just 2 decades ago, medics wouldn't touch small devices with a 10-foot pole, but today mobility is essential. While these data seem overwhelmingly negative, graph B actually shows that doctors under 40 showed great interest.
Finally, if you turn to page 54, you'll see that consumer interest has been low in the last decade, but figure B shows that interest has grown in the last few years. And as a side note, and Thiago, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like these data is incorrect. I feel like it should just be the data.
The data.
Because data is not something we count.
Yeah, maybe you can talk about data points, but I would also say this. I would keep it in the data shows. I definitely agree.
Yes, so please keep that in mind, guys. Yeah, I think we're still looking for.
Yeah, so anything that references.
We're still looking for phrases.
Yeah, so basically directing attention to something.
And I'll tell you the phrase that I Okay. So yes, here's one from Marco. He says, if you turn to page. So there is one before that. But the phrase or using a conditional is something we often do to politely draw someone's attention to something. So if you turn the page, if you look at the graph, if you blah, 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 you will find or you will see. Alessia, does wooden touch with a 10-foot pole sound professional? Not really, but to be honest, I think there is a limit with professional language. Maybe you wouldn't mention this phrase to a client, but you could mention it to your team as well in like a casual professional atmosphere. So with your colleagues, I think it's fine. It's better than saying this is and then a swear word, which I would say is not professional. Don't use this.
Exactly.
So I wouldn't go near it.
I feel like business culture in English is not particularly formal even. I mean, keeping it professional is good and definitely being polite. But in terms of expressions, I mean, it's loaded with idioms, expressions, and things like that. In fact, that's what a lot of students find difficult when dealing with, business meetings and these contexts, because if you come from a background in which these contexts need to be approached with a lot of formality, and then you're met with this different approach, it can throw you off a bit.
Yeah, there's a different, as I've just written, there's a difference between professionalism and formality. I think as long as in a business environment you are polite, and then it's fine. It's more about attitude. So what kind of attitude do you have? Are you the type of person who can approach a problem well? Or if there is a problem, do you complain about it? Do you get angry? Do you try to give the work to someone else, or etc.? These things we'd say are unprofessional. So it's more about how you conduct yourself rather than using formal or informal language. Although that said, obviously don't use too many slang words or colloquialisms, and definitely do not swear.
Yeah, because it can also be a risk. I mean, sometimes there is a certain expression that you think works a certain way, but it might require a certain tone to use it. And so there are a lot of like subtleties when you're using expressions. And so while it's really good, especially for understanding, just be careful about taking certain risks like that. It's great for you to do it in school. So even if you're doing a business activity here with us or in school, I mean, take as many risks as you want. If there's a nice expression that you feel like could fit the context, try it out. Then if we need to warn you about anything, we will. Okay,
Exactly.
so all right, Marco gave us, so finally, if you turn the page, but there's also a look, there's this over here, so have a look at these data, or this data, as we said before, in your handout. So it's making reference also to something that the audience has. So have a look at this data, and then if you turn to page 54, as you said, cool. And there's also a comparison here. So how does he compare two visuals?
Yes.
So wait, so what is the phrase, Jadine, that you're gonna say?
What's my phrase?
Really
My word.
I really want to know.
So the word is elucidate. And I've given an example of how you can use elucidate. So elucidate just means to make clear. So you can make a point and say, oh, this is elucidated by the graph, or you can say the graph elucidates this further. And yeah, it's really nice. And I just really like the sound of elucidate.
Yeah, that's the benefit to people who speak Romance language, is that in English, things that tend to come from Latin are considered elegant, right? So definitely here, I mean, luce comes from light. So it's really nice if you're trying to impress people. You can use these fancy words.
Yes, okay. So Marco says, how do you pronounce culture?
Culture, yeah.
So culture. Sorry, I'm having a lot of fun just using jargon as and when. I have a lot of power, which I didn't know I had before. So how does he compare to visuals? He does this in a few ways. So not with an A. Culture? No.
Count.
No.
Yeah, it is a bit of a habit, and I don't know where it comes from, but I know that in certain words in English, when pronounced here in Italy, they kind of tend to take this ah sound for some reason. Even like the word club, I noticed people say clab. I don't know where it
Yes,
comes from.
possibly because we have many different sounds for you, and some of them are close. Some of them are
An
close
A.
to O's, but some of them are close to A's as well. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a culture. All right, guys. So just in terms of the comparison, I mean, it's right over here. See, so while so while this data seems such a way, graph B actually shows that. Okay, so let's just put them together over here. So so this is the language basically that we are kind of focusing on. So drawing attention to visuals and comparing visuals. So here, I'll read the first one. Jadine, maybe you can do the second one. So if you're drawing
Yeah,
attention to
sure.
something, we say, you will notice here that, and have a look at this data on your handout. And again, you will know, then you can go back to the first one even. If you turn to page so-and-so, you will see that.
Okay, perfect. And then we have comparing to visuals. While this data seems overwhelmingly negative, graph B actually shows that. Page 54 shows that consumer interest has been low in the last decade, or page 54 shows something. But figure B just below it shows that blah, blah, blah. And another quick point to make, the word actually is really nice in a comparison. And we just use it when you say it looks like one thing, but actually it's something else.
Yeah. And so if you guys want to maybe practice with this, it doesn't have to be anything super long. You know, we've only got about 5 minutes or so until we're done. But here are some examples. I mean, obviously, guys, totally just invent the data, whatever it is, okay? It's just about using the language there. But here, we can talk about peak seasons at a beachside resort, ice cream sales in Milan, a new running shoe that changes according to your foot. Anyway, so we have some ideas here on the side, or if you prefer a more realistic context, I mean, again, we can just go back to our life that has changed significantly, you know, if you compare to even just 2 months ago. So feel free to just choose any element of it. It can be the number of people who are out and about, the number of people who are working, the sales of masks and hand sanitizer. I mean, whatever you want. Just maybe just a couple sentences, put them together using these sentences, just so these phrases we see there, just to make sure that you're using it correctly. A cell phone that transforms into a laptop.
You know what? I think
really
that
out there.
almost exists. It almost exists.
Does it really?
Well, you can buy like keyboards and things for your mobile phone.
Ah, yeah, that's true.
So I guess they work like a flippy tablet
Yeah,
type thing.
yeah, I definitely know there's some laptops that become a tablet if you like it folds all the way back. and then
Yeah,
it's kind of like
scary.
a tablet. Yeah, tablet. See, that's another thing that I never really got into so much. Never had one.
Mm-mm.
Okay, guys, so while you are writing your examples there, we're just briefly gonna go back through the slides here just to make sure everything is clear. We just do a brief review of it all. So again, we focus a bit on some phrases and vocabulary that we use when presenting a new product. And then we saw here some adjectives that we can describe products. Just remember that cutting edge is it's for something innovative, like the latest product, and it's used a lot, especially for technology related items, inventions. Use cutting edge quite a bit. We have the essentials here, and we call them toiletries. I think this was all quite clear. Yeah, same thing here. And then just in terms of language, and that's what you guys are practicing with now as well. So if we're directing attention to figures, images, graph, data, whatever, you can see you will notice here, or you'll notice that. Okay, and there's some others here. So have a look at this data, or finally, if you turn to page blah, 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 you will see that. In terms of comparing, we can use while, as you see here. And as JD also pointed out, actually is a really good one to use as well to draw a comparison. Okay, and then you can see them all summed up on the side here.
So Alessia has an amazing example, which I only have a very small comment to make. So she says, this CD displayed on this table allows the listener to learn a language while sleeping. While a school of thought states the opposite, you'll notice in the graph, blah, 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 the results we've been achieving. Perfect. So two really, really minor things, which there's nothing wrong with what you've written at all, but what the first thing is, you probably wouldn't say this CD on this table, because we use this to present something close to us. So we would probably either say this CD and present it, or the CD on this table. And the second thing is also, when we're talking about graphs, we tend to not use the article. So you'll notice in graph X. But otherwise, perfect. A really great example. Well done.
Exactly. Unless you have an adjective, I guess that's the only time. You notice in the first graph or the second graph, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah. But if because in that case, you're almost like giving it a name, right? Graph A, it's like a proper name almost. Yeah, and they seemed, maybe just put that in the past, and they seemed overwhelmingly negative because we're describing an adjective, so we need an adverb there. So at the beginning, I used to check the COVID-19 data every day or even daily, if you want, Marco, and they seemed overwhelmingly negative. Great. Then I became, I got fed up with it and I stopped. Yeah. That's also me. Like I remember like checking it religiously, even watching the they would broadcast at 6 o'clock every day, like the numbers, and I would like always like tune in and like listen. And then it got to a point I'm like, all right, enough of this. I also got fed up.
Okay. Well, fantastic, guys. Really, really nice. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but yeah, you've been great. Well done.
Exactly, guys. Thank you for the participation. It's always great to have you guys. You are like veterans here in the business focus, so keep tuning in. And we'll see you guys around. If we don't see you before for another webinar or whatever, also enjoy your got a holiday on Friday, so got a nice long weekend there. So enjoy.
Bye bye.